Look around your workplace. Look at the people who never miss a deadline, the ones who say yes to every project, whose email inbox is always at zero, and whose outward appearance is one of effortless, absolute control. They are the highest performers. They are the ones celebrated for their discipline, their productivity, and their ability to thrive under pressure. But if you look closer into the micro expressions during a meeting, or the trembling hand reaching for the third coffee of the morning, you will see the cracks. Now, understand this chilling truth. Behind that immaculate facade, they are collapsing. They are not driven by ambition. They are driven by terror. This is the hidden epidemic of our age, high-functioning anxiety. It is the neurological phenomenon where chronic, low-level dread is weaponized by the prefrontal cortex into an engine of overperformance. It is the perpetual hum of fear that forces you out of bed at 4 a.m., not because you are excited, but because you are terrified of failure. You feel like a fraud who is about to be exposed, despite a track record of perfect success. This isn't just stress. Stress is episodic. A tiger chases you. You run. The tiger leaves. You relax. This is different. This is a state of chronic, systemic overload. In neuroscience, we call this allostatic load. It is the cumulative wear and tear on the body leading to a breakdown of biological systems. To fix it, we must first go inside and diagnose the biological machinery stuck in the perpetual on position. We need to talk about the sympathetic nervous system, the fight-or-flight engine, and the HPA axis. Your nervous system is designed for survival. When a real threat appears, say a predator, your SNS floods your body with adrenaline and noradrenaline. This allows you to run faster, focus harder, and ignore pain. This reaction is governed by the hypothalamic pituitary adrenal axis. The hypothalamus detects the threat, signals the pituitary, which tells the adrenal glands to release the primary stress hormone, cortisol. Cortisol is essential. It delivers a massive boost of energy and hypervigilance. It shuts down non-essential functions like digestion and immune response to prioritize immediate survival. The problem for the high-functioning anxious person is that the threat is not a predator. It is an email, a deadline, a vague text message, or the fear of social judgment. Yet, your ancient primitive brain cannot tell the difference between the fear of a tiger and the fear of a typo in a report. So, the HPA axis never shuts down. It remains chronically active, bathing your system in cortisol for weeks, months, or even years. This is the physiological state of overload. This chronic cortisol flooding has 3 devastating effects on your neurobiology. First, the amygdala, your brain's fear alarm, becomes hypertrophied, meaning it physically enlarges. A larger, more reactive amygdala means you are constantly scanning the environment for threats that do not exist. Your default setting becomes dread. Second, the chronic cortisol exposure physically shrinks the hippocampus, the region vital for memory consolidation and emotional regulation. This is why you feel mentally foggy, exhausted, and struggle to form new memories despite outwardly appearing sharp. Third, and perhaps most dangerous, the chronic stimulation physically begins to burn out the prefrontal cortex, the very mechanism responsible for the high-functioning part of your disorder. The PFC is your planner, your executive, and your inhibitor. It takes the SNS fear energy and redirects it into hyperscheduling, over-preparation, and perfectionism. It tells the amygdala, don't stop being afraid, just use the fear to work harder. But here is the trap. Your brain actually becomes addicted to this cycle. When you panic about a task and then complete it perfectly, your brain releases a hit of dopamine mixed with relief. You inadvertently train your nervous system that anxiety equals success. You begin to believe that if you stop worrying, everything will fall apart. The constant pursuit Zansuntor T Dursentui Temporary T or C eventually leads to cognitive fatigue, error-making, and often an emotional shutdown, a state of learned helplessness beneath the veneer of productivity. The anxiety forces performance, but the performance destroys the brain structure required for long-term health. This is the biological trap. To escape this trap, we must stop addressing the symptoms, like the worry or the compulsion to work, and start addressing the cause, the chronically hijacked sympathetic nervous system. We must intentionally strengthen its opposite, the parasympathetic nervous system, which governs rest and repair. Here is the granular protocol to biologically down-regulate your HPA axis and reset your default state from fear to safety. Protocol 1. Somatic Vagal toning, the reset button. You cannot reason your way out of a nervous system overload. You cannot think yourself calm because your thinking brain is offline. You must use physical input. The goal is to increase your vagal tone, the strength and responsiveness of the vagus nerve. This nerve is the primary conduit for the parasympathetic system. Technique: the physiological sigh. Inhale fully, then follow it with a short, sharp second inhalation, a sniff, and then exhale slowly and completely through pursed lips. This double inhale pops open the alveoli in your lungs, and the long exhale signals your heart to slow down. It is the fastest known biological signal to deactivate the amygdala and reset the stress cycle. Repeat 3 times when stress spikes. Protocol 2. Strategic Cortisol Decoupling. The cortisol cycle is tied to your circadian rhythm. To reduce its impact, you must deliberately manipulate environmental cues. In the morning, immediately expose your eyes without sunglasses to sunlight for 10 minutes. This massive light signal helps synchronize your body's clock and sets a clean, sharp cortisol curve for the day, improving energy and focus naturally. Conversely, reduce all blue light exposure after 9 p.m. This allows the hypothalamus to receive the signal that the threat is gone, enabling the transition to restorative sleep, which is when the hippocampus performs its critical repair functions. Protocol 3. The PFC Firewall, stopping the mental gymnastics. High-functioning anxiety thrives on future-proofing, the mental rehearsal of possible catastrophes. This is the PFC generating high-level predictions that keep the amygdala feeding the stress loop. You must build a firewall. When the spiral begins, use the 5-minute rule. Allow yourself exactly 5 minutes to write down every single intrusive thought and worry. Get it out of your head and onto paper. When the timer hits 0, you must verbally declare, "I have stored this worry. I am now present." This simple action moves the thought from the chaotic emotional processing of the default mode network into the ordered, controlled processing of external memory, freeing your PFC from the exhausting internal debate. Protocol 4. The 70% Rule, the Perfectionism Antidote. High-functioning anxiety demands 100% effort on every task, regardless of its importance. This burns through your cognitive fuel rapidly. You must retrain your brain to differentiate between critical and non-critical tasks. For 1 week, apply the 70% rule to all low-stakes tasks, like answering routine emails, choosing a restaurant, or house cleaning. Intentionally aim for B- work. Tell yourself, 70% is complete. This is exposure therapy. You are exposing your amygdala to the feeling of imperfection and proving to it that the world does not end. This conserves your massive analytical power for the few things that truly matter. Protocol 5. The Safety Anchor. The highest signal of safety you can give your ancient brain is predictability and tactile input. You must create a safety anchor, a simple, repeating daily ritual that engages the sense of touch. This could be holding an ice cube for 60 seconds for temperature shock, gently rubbing the palms of your hands together for 1 minute, or intentionally hugging a loved one for a count of 10. These somatic inputs override the internal noise and provide the insula and amygdala with undeniable physical evidence that the current environment is stable and safe, gently pulling the system out of chronic threat perception. High-functioning anxiety is not a superpower. It is a biological debt. Every deadline you meet, every task you finish, comes at the cost of your long-term health and the structural integrity of your brain. But the machine can be recalibrated. By shifting your focus from performance to physiological safety, you stop fighting the anxiety and start healing the nervous system. You possess the biological tools to move from a state of perpetual activation to one of genuine, sustainable calm. The goal is not to stop being functional. The goal is to stop being driven by fear. In the next video, we will look at the science of the 90-minute rule and how to leverage Ultradian rhythms to multiply your focus by 5 without burnout. Class dismissed.